Right over there! Search this place. Just find them. Let him go! Look alive!
Here! Watch it! Watch it!
Let's move.
Hey guys, hope you're all doing well. Figured I'd just have a little bit of a quick rant about progressivism in games today. It's actually bothering me a little bit. So there's progressivism and then there's progressivism that fits the tone, right? So progressivism that fits the tone would say be a signalis, which it would be a desperate android lesbian relationship out of complete and total isolation in service to a totalitarian state, which is like fair enough, you don't have another option, fits the setting, fits the bleakness of the setting, fits the tone, fits it, everything about it, right? So that would be an example of acceptable progressivism if you had to do progressivism at all for a setting. Then there is progressivism, which would be the weaponization of queer theory and gay acceptance and LGBTQ in service to cultural and destruction of tradition. So cultural destruction and destruction of tradition. The latest example of that would be Star Wars. This would be narcissistic, lesbian, feminism, queer theory interjecting itself unwanted and to the destruction of the franchise into Star Wars in the form of making lesbians having given birth to the Force. It not only destroys the canon, it injects Marxism, it injects queer theory, it injects feminism, all of them unworthy to the original IP, into it, destroys the franchise towards Marxist goals of complete destruction of culture, cultural identity, so totalitarian government can seize control a lot easier in the name of the theoretical workers. Like, the free market itself recognizes this. This is why Disney and everyone are taking massive, massive losses, despite having not only a monopoly on the original IPs, but a monopoly on the ability to fund and produce them. So, despite all of that advantage, they're still taking massive losses. You can see a clear example of this in the comparison between the audience and critic scores on Rotten Tomato. If it weren't obvious that the critics were in the bag for all this Marxist bullshit theory. So for me, given the amount of franchises all this queer theory bullshit and Marxist train of thought has injected itself into, it now is beginning to look, especially given the consequences, which is the destruction of Disney, the massive losses, the destruction of IPs, it's looking more and more like a deliberate Marxist goal to destroy culture itself. The culture would be popular culture. If you've noticed, there's no more male heroes and that sort of thing. It's all women girl bosses. They're all unworthy. They all have terrible values. They're all shallow. They all use power to exploit. Even in other trains of popular culture, it's no longer about good storytelling or traditional storytelling. Take shows like The Boys, for example. It's about denial of justice. The justice would be Billy Butcher killing Homelander to avenge his wife who was raped, right? So they're denying justice, they're changing the canon, they're bridging it out into longer seasons, more and more seasons, and it looks to me like it's all about the deliberate destruction of culture and conditioning of learned helplessness in culture. Like, even take Space Marine 2, the upcoming game. Like, it's an insult to the franchise itself and the intellectual property that they've put some Marxist queer theorist in charge of that. The values in that would, like, they're completely different from anything in Marxist queer theory. Marxist queer theory is about the subversion of tradition. There is nothing more orthodox than Warhammer 40k. You've got the Chaos Gods, which are, like, obvious, right? They're there. Like, queer theory would be either change for the sake of change, which would be Zench, or it would be sexual perversion, which is Slaanesh. They've put one of these people directly in charge of it when they would directly betray the principles of the franchise. It's completely unacceptable. It's completely bullshit. I don't know why they would do it. The only reason they would have for doing it would be the deliberate destruction of culture, the deliberate destruction of the 40k canon, which is obviously what they were doing with the female custodies. So, with the female custodies, it's not just that it betrays the canon, it's that it betrays the canon in service to Marxist queer theory by directly injecting girl bosses in the direct hierarchy of the emperor, which is just a complete betrayal of the very concept in 40k, which would be, you know, orthodox hierarchy directly against the forces of chaos. Now, in some instances, that orthodox hierarchy is corrupt. In some, it's not. In some, there's really hard choices. Take, like, the Grey Knights, for example, purging humans that have been exposed to the taint of chaos, because the humans would eventually be corrupted by it and then turn into demons and then take out entire worlds. Like, the concepts are already in there, but it's just this shallow destruction of the principles just for the surface of Marxism. And if there's any ideology in the world that doesn't deserve the destruction of culture, it's Marxism. Like, I can't think of a worse, more demonic ideology that has skated by without criticism, like, more than Marxism. It has been responsible for the worst atrocities of, like, the last 100 years. Like, hands down, its destruction of tradition is causing problems in the societies that have rejected it in the interest of free market capitalism. Like, it's just insane to me that there is so much kid glove treatment of Marxism. In terms of ideology, it's probably worse than Nazism in terms of its destruction. Just the sheer amount of starvation deaths it has caused, the sheer amount of totalitarian governments and dictators it has led to the rise of. It is an unworthy ideology. It should be looked at worse than Nazism, but it has none of the stigma associated with it. It's insane to me. And now, in service to that ideology, to the detriment of capitalism and individual freedom, we're what? We're destroying culture because some idiot fresh out of college or uni that doesn't have the slightest idea of what they're talking about wants to make an unwarranted criticism of capitalism? Like, no, get fucked. Fuck off. Stay out of things you have no right to be a part of. We know that by your very interference in the canon and in the art, that you're not a fan of the original. What gives you the right to fuck around with it? Fuck off, people. Jeez. And what makes this whole situation worse is the tendency, particularly in totalitarian Marxist states, to completely control media and the history of those states. Like, we only learnt about Mao's famine because inevitably those states get so corrupt that they hire stupid people and the stupid people make mistakes. Like, the dude who wrote Mao's Great Famine, the book, he only was able to write it because the state fucked up and allowed him access to archive records. That's not even the case in most totalitarian states. They destroy records, so it's like impossible to see how much they've fucked up and how many people they've killed in some instances. Like, the error brackets on Mao's Great Famine alone are like in what, the millions, tens of millions? We don't know because they're fucking lied about the history of it. That's what you get with Marxism. You get pure abuse of power, pure bullshit, all lies, and it leads to, you know, massive human death. All in service to put, what, narcissists in power that think they can do a better job, that haven't rose through any meritocratic hierarchy. And it just leads to starvation deaths because they're fucking idiots. Pure Dunning-Kruger. These narcissists have no idea how to do anything they think they should be in charge of. It is the same with the criticism of art. It is the same here with this attempted destruction of culture. If I was to put on my paranoia schizophrenia hat, I'd say it was deliberate cultural subversion from the Free West's enemies in Maoist China and the Soviet Union back in the day. I would say it was deliberate infiltration of culture in order to install totalitarian states in these countries. And our ruling class are either so selfish or so stupid that they've completely ignored it for, like, what, 50 years? Like, it's insane to me. Like, not only that, it's absolutely insane to me that tax money in the Free West is going towards this type of cultural subversion in service to Marxism. What the fuck are our fucking leaders doing by allowing that to happen? Are they... I've got to assume they're fucking evil, right? I've got to assume it. They're not only, what, complete total control of media, giving it a leftist lilt, which is especially the case in Australia, but state-funded media, so taxpayer money is going directly to prop it up. As we've shown, all this Marxist fucking queer theory shit is never really popular in popular culture. Like, even the working class and typically have a gut reaction towards it, realizing that it's fucked up. It's probably in service to pedophilia and destruction of traditional marriage. It's like, probably, you know, they've got a sense that it's leading to the destruction of, you know, where their bread comes from, basically. But, yeah, like, it's a nightmare. Our political leaders are just shit. They're shit. There's no political will to oppose any of it. Because there's no political will to oppose any of it, it has infiltrated universities, infiltrated art to the destruction of both the university's credibility and the art. It's also led to the complete destruction of public trust in any of the authorities of the university. If you have a look at the destruction of Disney and all that sort of thing, any trust in the authority of the critics, any trust in the authority of the artists. Like, no one even trusts media anymore. Like, there's no independent journalism anymore. So, I mean, it's just literal destruction of the West. Like, what are our options to, like, prevent this? You can't really. Like, the first step would be to stop publicly funding all of this shit. But they're not doing that, probably because they're on the take. Like, I was going to do a video just on the sheer amount of new taxes that have been introduced, and how they were all introduced as temporary taxes, but they've all just stayed. And I was just going to do, like, a video on, like, all the taxes that should be repealed immediately, but... yeah, it's like, it's just insane. It's insane. The West is retarded for allowing the Marxists to subvert it as hard as they have.